Today we have episode number 5 of my knitting podcast, so grab something cool to drink or something fun to knit on and let's get started. Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel by Emlu. I'm Emlu, aka Marianne, and I sound a little different. I'm not even gonna beat around the bush around that. I am recovering from allergies / a cold. I'm not entirely sure what it is, and in turn I have a semi-stuffy / runny nose, and so it's affecting my voice. I apologize if that's a little unfun, but the fact is that I feel fine, which is why I wanted to film, but yeah, dealing with that. I'll try to cut around the sniffles because I definitely have them, and hopefully the viewing experience isn't too bad. We have a fun one today. We have a lot of stuff to chat about. We have one finished object, a handful of whips, and as well as some yarn acquisitions. I know a while back I said I wasn't gonna be buying any more yarn, and to be fair, some of this yarn was gifted to me as a birthday present. It was my birthday last weekend, and so I have that, but I also did buy some stuff. So I will share that with you guys at the end. First things first, we'll talk about the finished object and the most obvious one, which is my Camisole number 9 by My Favorite Things Knitwear. That's what I'm wearing today. I finished this maybe a couple days ago now, and I've had a chance to wear it and I love it. That being said, I have a couple thoughts on the whole process, so let's just get into it. As some admin overview stuff, this is, like I said, the My Favorite Things Knitwear Camisole number 9. I believe it's her most recent camisole. When I casted it on, I think it had just been released, so it's probably a month and a half old now, the pattern. And as much as it makes a beautiful classic, it's a stockinette style tank top with these really clean fold over edges for the neckline and the armholes, it looks in my opinion, a store-bought style, which is what really drew me in the first place. The knitting process was an interesting one. I wouldn't say it was bad, but there's definitely a lot of head scratching moments on am I doing this right or not? I think that's more of a testament to my skill level than the pattern itself, but I'm not sure. This is my first time doing a My Favorite Things Knitwear pattern, and so I don't know if my experience this time is how it usually is. I've heard good things about her pattern, so I'm not sure. Regardless, I knit this up in the suggested yarn, which was Knitting for Olive Cotton Merino in the colorway Oatmeal, and that's a beautiful yarn. I love Knitting for Olive. This is my first time working with cotton merino, which I know is a very popular summer yarn. It's a 70% cotton, 30% I think wool, and I would say it primarily performs like cotton. It has very little stretch. It's kind of unforgiving, and can be a little rough on your hands. So I think it's more cotton focused, as evident by the distribution of cotton to wool weighting, but it's a really beautiful yarn. I love the way that it knits up in terms of the garment and the drape, and as a summer fiber, I think it's lovely. I've been wearing this shirt not every day, but fairly consistently since they casted it off, and it is a very comfortable garment to wear. I did find it a little splitty relative to the merino Knitting for Olive, but not anything too bad. My biggest thing with the yarn was that it was my first time that I found a knot in the ball. So I used about 2.5 balls to actually knit up this garment, and it was my first time coming across a knot in the ball, not a tangle, a proper tied end-to-end knot. I couldn't figure, it was a fairly large one, so I ended up cutting it out and joining yarn as if I was joining in a new ball in the way I normally do. So it wasn't that big of a deal, but it really caught me off guard. In terms of the actual pattern, this was mostly knit on 3mm needles, with the exception of the edging here, which was on a 2mm. So it's a lot of knitting. I recall in the last podcast, I was like, oh, it's coming along really nicely. I finally joined in the round. It's gonna go really swimmingly from here. And yes and no. It went really smoothly because it was just stockinette, but also it was so much knitting. It was I know it's fingering weight on like a small like needle, but I don't know, something about the cotton merino made it feel like it was dragging on forever. If it had sleeves, I don't know if I would have been able to finish it, to be honest with you. It was just, I think it was mentally very taxing, this project. I followed the pattern basically to the T with the exception of the pickup rate around the neck hole and the sleeves. I kind of picked up at random. I think in the pattern that I was following, I was like 10 stitches short from picking up. And the armholes before you like put the edging on were like ginormous, so I wasn't too worried about picking up like fewer. And I think it worked out fine. I really like the way that it sits. And the pickup rate I think was 2 stitches for every 3. Like I was following the general, like I'll pick up 2 and then skip like an arbitrary like amount that might be 1 stitch. So I kind of followed it, but didn't follow it, if that makes sense. This is my first time knitting a My Favorite Things knitwear pattern. It was relatively straightforward, but out of the patterns that I've done in the past, I definitely think there was a lot more like open to interpretation sections, / there were certain elements that I think I'm used to having in like more of a beginner pattern. Not that this wasn't a beginner pattern, but there were certain like things that were missing that I'd have to go back and be like, oh yeah, like she didn't tell me to do that, I need to do that. For example, when I joined in the round, I think for the neck hole when I was doing the edge, because basically you work up like 1.5 inches of stockinette like on the revert inside, and then you would fold it down so that it would be like a folded on the edging, if that makes sense. And I didn't add a stitch marker to tell me where my beginning of round was when I was just doing that section, because it wasn't written in the pattern. And so I got like 4 rows in and I was like, where's my beginning of round? And then I checked and I was like, oh, right, I have to put 1 in. And that's like an intuition thing on like you as a knitter, because she doesn't tell you to do that in the pattern. There was just like a lot of those like little things that don't make or break a pattern, but if you're really used to just following it and just, you know, crossing out the rows as you go and making, and that's the way you knit, I would think that there's like a handful of smaller things that are missing that would have been helpful for like a newer one, or someone that's more forgetful or more just like a mindless knitter that likes to just follow a pattern. The only other interesting thing was I had some trouble with the like bottom body edge. Not that it was difficult, but just like conceptually, I didn't really know what I was going for. It's written in the pattern, but like nowhere on her promotional photos and or the photos that I could see on Ravelry, because it's a fairly new project, there weren't too many projects, had the bottom edge. So I was kind of like, I think this is what I'm supposed to do, but like I have no idea. And when at the time that you fold it up and you like knit, you basically are knitting, how do I explain this? You knit to a certain point and then you fold the edge in half to like create the bottom hem. And then you basically knit it into place. And I was having a really curled edge. Thankfully, steam blocking helping that, but like at that time I was like, is it supposed to be like this? I'm not sure. And I couldn't find any validation on photos. So I'll be sure to at least put a photo of my bottom edge on my Ravelry project page so that if anybody has that problem in the future, they can see at least what I did. Whether or not it's the way I'm supposed to do it, I have no idea, because all of My Favorite Things promotional photos for it, she has the shirt like tucked in, or it's like hanging off the side of a table or something, so like you can't actually see it, which I found like maybe that's just an oversight thing. It would be nice to have like a full photo of the garment, but anyways, those are just like nitpicky things. I would definitely knit this up again. If I was to do so, I think I would do it in like a wool yarn, so probably like the Knitting Fall of Merino or Sandnes Garn Sunday. As much as it's been really nice to wear the cotton merino in the summer, I feel like the knitting experience with wool is better in my personal opinion. Before I move on, the very last thing I will say is I was very surprised that this shirt was not actually bra friendly. So fun fact, I actually am wearing a bra and then used like a piece of string to tie it in the edge to kind of give me kind of like a racer back so you can't see it. But if I didn't have that, you could see my bra straps, which I was a little annoyed about, because when I first saw it, I was like, oh, it's gonna be a bra friendly shirt. And I guess the way that this cuts in, it's not. That's neither here or there, like take that as you will. I was just a little disappointed. And that's more my fault. It wasn't advertised to be bra friendly. I just assumed that it would be. Yeah, that's my Camisole number 9. As much as the process was a little bit of a hurdle, I love the finished product and I definitely will get a lot of wear out of it, especially with the heat coming. And I mean, the heat's already here, but the heat's staying. And so yeah, I love the product. The just experience was not the most fun one, which leads me to believe that I'm very much a process knitter, because I was getting like demotivated at like the experience that I was having. And the thing that pushed me through is that once you're done the body, you're pretty much done. You just have to do the edgings to clean things up. And I really, really like the way it looks, so I definitely would make it again. But yeah, that's all I have to say about the Camisole number 9, which was a lot. Moving on to my works in progresses, I have a couple updates on ones that you've seen before. There are also no updates on some other ones that you might have seen because I've just made no progress. And then there's also a handful, maybe 2 new ones that I casted on between the last podcast and now. I'll get the easy one out of the way first, just because I don't have too much to say about it. It's more just like a here's where I am in the process. But that is my Wild Bee socks by Helen Stewart. So I'm still working on the first sock. Because I was pretty monogamously knitting on the Camisole number 9, I put this one kind of on hold and I didn't come back until after. So I haven't made too much progress in like the grand scheme of things. I'm almost done the first sock though. I'm on the last repeat for the like bee repetition, and then I'll be doing the toe, which is really exciting. But yeah, this is how much I've gotten done. I'm really enjoying it. I really like the lace pattern. I made a mention in my last podcast when I had first started it that I don't really see the bees. And someone made like the comment that they look like golden snitches, which I definitely see. So they're kind of like Harry Potter themed, which goes in hand with the yarn that I'm using. So this is Sweet Sorrows yarn. I believe they're Nuthatch sock base in the color Butterbeer, which is this really beautiful tonal yellow. And so it's like a low-key Harry Potter themed socks, but oh so not. This was my first time doing a lace pattern, and I mentioned this in the past, but I love the way that Helen Stewart lays it out. It's really, really like reader friendly, and so I love that. I have this issue though that I'm not really good at memorizing patterns, and so this is a 16 row repeat. Once you get into it, it's like relatively easy to understand, but I constantly am checking back in terms of like, am I doing it right? Because I don't want to mess up. And in turn, these socks haven't been a great travel pair of socks, so I'm going to be grappling between knitting vanilla socks and fun lace socks in the future moving forward, because I love the way lace socks look, but they're kind of hard to just bring around, at least for me. Or maybe it's just this pattern. Maybe if you have like a really small repetition, like just constantly, it might be easier to memorize. But really excited to finish these off and cast on the second pair. I'm trying to figure out how I want to like segue the next couple of projects. I'll like switch it up. I'll do like one that we've talked about and then a new work in progress, one that we've talked about and then a new work in progress. So this one here is a new one that I casted on honestly like 2 days ago, and I've come, in my opinion, a long way with them. And it doesn't look like much, but it is the little vest for my nephew. So this yarn might look a little familiar. I'm sorry, is my book like reflecting? I have my notebook on my lap, but the sun is like reflecting the light, so I'm gonna move that over there for now. Okay, sorry. This is my sweater vest for my little nephew, and this yarn might look a little familiar. This is Sandnes Garn Pure Gynt in the colorway Forest Green, I believe. And I've talked about this yarn a lot in the past because it was supposed to be a hat, can't be a hat because it's green yarn. You can watch previous podcasts if you want to know why. And I have finally repurposed it into a sweater vest. And so it doesn't look like much right now. I have the back panel here, which is really just like a little 1x1 ribbing at the bottom and then just a whole bunch of stockinette. And I'm currently working on the front panel. The pattern that I make following for this one is the 6-stitch plait sweater vest for kids, I think is the full name of it, by Ratchadawan Chambers. And it's a free pattern on Ravelry. I'm ironically not doing the plait. Basically, the way it looks is that it's a very plain stockinette vest with like cabling on the two sides here. I am, like I said, ironically not doing the cables. I just wanted to do a plain stockinette sweater. And it's been going around well. Like I said, I casted it on at like 5:30 a.m. one morning when I couldn't sleep. And I got the whole back piece and most of like what I have done on the front piece done that day. So I feel like this will be a fairly quick knit. It's my first time in a long time doing like a seamed pattern. So like I said, you have the back, you have the front, and you'll seam them together when the time comes. I wanted to cast this on relatively soon because I was worried that if I waited any longer and he grew bigger, I was going to run out of yarn. In retrospect, I think I'll still have extra, so I probably could have made it a little bigger, but that's fine. Maybe I'll make my niece a matching vest or something if I have some extra. We'll see. But yeah, it's going very well. It's just a very, very plain sweater vest, and so I'm excited to have that done. And it's been a breath of fresh air working on this because I think pure Gynt is like a light worsted, I want to say, or a very heavy DK. And anyways, it's a relatively thick yarn, all things considering. And so after so much fingering weight, it's been really nice to work on something that knits up way faster. And so I'm really happy with how this is turning out. If I haven't mentioned, this is on 5mm needles. But yeah, a little sweater vest. Hopefully that will be done for his birthday, which is in September, and I can gift it to him then. Jumping back to a project that you have seen before. This one's kind of exciting, and it's not exciting because it's a super exciting project. It's just exciting because I've built it up in my head for a very long time that it was gonna take forever, and that is my Sunny baby blanket for my manager. Okay, so as you can see, I've made quite a bit of progress. I'm still not done, but I'm getting there. And for those of you that are new, you might not understand why my excitement is so high, and that's because I've been complaining about this honestly for months. And that's because it's just some miscellaneous acrylic yarn that I had at my local yarn craft store on metal needles, and that combination is not my favorite combination. I find the yarn very squeaky. I don't feel like that it gives a lot of like stretch and give because I mean it's acrylic, it's basically plastic. And then on the metal needles, it's like super slippery, and so it's been really hard on my hands. But I was talking about it a lot, and I was just like, you know what? We'll just do it. We'll just, you know, stop complaining and just get it done. And I think after I started getting into the groove of it, and I've been playing around with using both continental knitting as well as English style knitting to get it done, I think the like switching that up has given my hands a lot more of a break and ease, and it's less like confining, because I think continental with this combination of needle and yarn has been very difficult. It's a lot easier with English style while slower, but there's a trade-off, you know? And in turn, I have made this much progress. I haven't had a chance to measure it. I suspect I'm probably about like 3/4 of the way done, so I'm almost done. I only realized, which is really funny because I've been working on it for so long, that I actually messed up on the pattern. So the pattern starts with like a pretty big garter stitch border, and then you do these like little square repeats. This is a horrible way of showing it, sorry. Little square repeats, and in between them, I think you're actually supposed to have bigger like garter like bands. But at the time I was lazy and I was like, I don't want to do as much knitting, so I made the bands smaller without thinking about the repercussions of that. And basically it means I'm actually gonna have to do it a little bit longer because it's gonna be an awkward rectangle if I don't. Which is not the end of the world. In hindsight, I would have just followed the pattern, but it is what it is. But I am so happy. I'm hoping that at the rate that I'm going, I'll be able to finish it soon, and then it will be off my conscience and ready to gift. And so I still think it's a beautiful yellow, and I'm so excited to gift it. But yeah, it's making me, I'm like now at the other side of that hurdle, in the sense that it's making me happy that I've been making so much progress, and so I've been able to convince myself to work on it more frequently, because I don't want to say I'm like enjoying it, but I'm definitely not dreading it as much. And with the end in sight, that is very exciting. So stay tuned for the finished update of this. I am making progress and am beyond excited about that. All right, the last work in progress that I have is one that I started relatively recently, and it's gonna be a little hard to talk about because it's not really based off a pattern. I'm kind of like making it up as I go, but this is what I've been calling my half scrap blanket. And the reason why I call it that is because it's made of half scrap yarn. Like these color sections here are some scrappy sock yarn that I've had around that I just wanted to incorporate into something. I originally was gonna do like the excavation throw or some other like scrappy yarn project that's on Ravelry, but I found that the colors like constantly changing were like a little too overstimulating, if that made sense. So I ended up doing this compromised half colored, half white blanket. This is really inspired by the Pearl Soho Prism blanket. I ended up hacking it a little bit because I didn't want the squares to be as big. The ones that they have are fairly large, but this one's only 45. No, this one's, I want to say like 22 stitches across or 45 stitches by diagonal in the triangle. And instead of picking up stitches on the edges here, I ended up doing short row shaping because it just felt a little bit more intuitive than having to pick up constantly and making sure that edge was clean. This was a labor of love. While it looks fairly simple, and it probably is very simple for like the large majority of people, because I wasn't following a pattern specifically, which is, I'm a very pattern focused person. I had a lot of fun, but also a lot of mishap in terms of trying to figure out how to best do it. So I'm really happy with how it's turned out so far. I think it's fairly clean. We'll see how it moves as it gets bigger. But yeah, it brings me a lot of joy. I'm excited to see the colors grow as I like get bigger. I'm slightly worried that it's going to be very like monotoned in terms of color, because I don't know if you guys have seen a pattern, but I wear a lot of like beige, tans, and browns. And so I'm hoping that it will grow with color, and I'm hoping to do some maybe scrap yarn swapping and maybe raid my sister's scrap bin to kind of incorporate some more colors into here that I won't necessarily have, because I would like to have some purple and oranges and greens, but those aren't really colors that I gravitate towards. I will say, and this is kind of teaser into the acquisitions section, I did buy some scrap yarn from Etsy from a local Canadian dyer, so I'm excited. It's like a mystery pack, and I'm excited to see what kind of color she gives me in terms of like being able to incorporate them in, because I think I can't commit to like a lot of color to make a garment, but I think like little scrap minis here and there would be fun to incorporate. So stay tuned in terms of how this one grows. I don't really plan on showing this too much because I think progress on this will be very slow, but I love the way that it looks so far. For those that are wondering, this white is KnitPicks Stroll in the color Bear, which I think is advertised as a sport weight yarn. I think it's kind of like a light DK, and I've been using it with fingering weight held double, and I think it works really well, so take that how you will. These two up here are some miscellaneous KnitPicks. I want to say Hawthorne yarn, but I'm not entirely remembering that correctly. And then this one's some leftover from my mustard burrow, which is the Fireweed Fibricose in the color Vineyard at Night, I think is the name of it. And yeah, excited to see how it grows. It makes me really happy, and I still have a lot of scrap yarn, so I'll probably end up doing like a scrappy scrap blanket at some point and give it away or donate it or gift it. But this one's been a labor of love from my perspective. That's all I have in terms of the work in progress is that are new or update worthy. Everything else, I either haven't really made a lot of progress, or they're in a position that the progress that I've made basically looks like no different than last time. So I'm just gonna leave those out, and also keep, in the interest of keeping this video not atrociously long. The last section is the fun section, which is the yarn acquisition section. I've been a little bad. I bought a little bit of yarn. And like I said, I was gifted some yarn for my birthday, and so I don't feel like that counts, but I do want to share that with you guys. This yarn here is from my sister for my birthday. I still actually have it in the bag that she gifted it to me in because I wanted to share it with you guys, kind of like a little unboxing, even though I've opened it and I know what it is, but I just thought it would be fun. And also, can we take a minute to appreciate how cute this cactus bag is, because I think it's adorable. But I am so excited for this yarn. So she got me basically all knitting related stuff, which thank you, Steph, I'm so excited. 2 of which are like notions, and then 3 of which are actually yarn, which are all the same yarn, but she got me 3 balls on them. And that is the Creative Rico Designs Make It Tweed. Like, this is the most fun yarn that I've seen in so long. I saw Knits by Mandy have it, and I just was like, I need to have that. And I saw that it was like available in a local yarn store, and so my sister ordered some and ended up gifting it to me. But it is so fun. Oh my God. Like, all of the colors just like explode the joy. As much as I just said that I wear a lot of tans and browns and beiges, which is very true, things like this make me so happy, and like to mix it in with some like white or cream or gray is just going to be like perfection. So like I said, she got me 3 balls of it. I'm planning on making a vest for sure using this, held with a yarn that I will show you in a second. And I'll probably have way too much extra, and so maybe I'll make a sweater too. I don't know. The like ideas are endless because this yarn is just so fun. I like lit up like a child because I'm like so excited for this. Like, I can't even put it into words how much joy this yarn brings me, which is, I don't know if that's sad or fun, but I don't know. It just, yeah. So exciting. And honestly, relatively affordable. Like, given that Tweedy yarn in general can be very expensive, like having one of these, which is 50 grams, is 445 meters. I mean, it's lace weight, but you can do a lot with that. And so excited to do that. I haven't exactly figured out what vest I want to make. I envisioned this Tweedy with like a cream styled vest would be really fun for like the holiday season, and just like, hopefully it's like neutral with a pop of fun. And so that's my plan with that. But yeah, so excited about this, excited to put this in my stash. And I have to do a gauge swatch to figure out, because I know I want to use this with the yarn that, like I said, I'll show you in a second. But I don't know if that would be a good yarn combination for some of the patterns I have in mind. I've been looking at some of the petite knit vests, but I think they're all like worsted or DK weight. So the yarn plan that I have in mind might or might not work, in which then I will have to kind of hack the pattern by doing like a size larger or changing my gauge or something. We'll see. But yeah, so much joy. Thank you so much, Steph. Really excited about that. And then the other 2 things, like I said, are notion related. So these are from the Twirl and Print Fiber Studio. And one of them is this really cute like multi-purpose tool. And then this other one is stitch markers that are like bee focused. I'm so sorry if the like lighting's bad and reflecting off of the packaging. I hadn't really thought that through. Here, let me take it out and show you. So this one, like I said, is these super cute stitch markers. One's like a bee one, one's a little sunflower. And just so that you guys can see it again, this one is like a multi-tool notion that I think it's like you can cut yarn here. There's like a 1 by 1 inch square that you can measure there. I think you can use these like to wrap around and determine the weight of your yarn. And this is like a yarn holder, and then it has little holes if you need to like separate. So yeah, so excited about those. Thank you so much, Steph. It was a wonderful birthday present, and I'm excited. Oh, are these magnetic? Oh, they are. How fun. Anyways, yeah, so that was my little birthday present from my sister. And then the other one, so this is the yarn I'm planning. I already teased this. I should have just told you guys earlier. But this is the Stroll Sportway in Bare that I got from KnitPicks. I got a whole bunch of this. Probably way too much. But my plans was, like I said, I'm using this as the like half coloring on my half scrap blanket. And then I want to make my vest with this. And I wanted to have just some extra, like, I think having like this natural colored like DK weight yarn is just nice to have on hand for like sweaters or blankets or whatever. And so I bought a lot. I bought a bag. This is 10 hanks, and then I bought like just 2 loose ones, and so I already opened one for the blanket. And the reason why I picked the stroll is because it was relatively affordable. It is 75% Superwash merino and 25% nylon, so I think it's a very versatile base, and I'm just excited to have this in my stash. Surprisingly, like I think each hank was about like $5 or $6, and you get 100 grams per hank, so it was really affordable. And then on top of that, KnitPicks had like a 20% off discount that I got offered, and so great buy in my opinion for all of this. But yeah, that was. I'm going to use this for that vest as well as the blanket that I showed you. Okay, the last 2 things are the I was bad purchases, in the sense that I really didn't need these. Like the argument is like I had things in mind and I really wanted to start that scrap blanket, so that was my justification for buying it. But these 2 I like didn't need them. I got them because my local yarn store was having like a giant sale because they were making room for some new inventory, and so I dropped by and I couldn't resist, and I picked up a couple more balls of fingering weight yarn because you can never have too much fingering in my opinion. It's great for socks, it's great held double to make DK weight stuff, and so I picked up these 2 skeins, which thank you so much, Rebecca, who is a lovely viewer who finally told me how to pronounce it. It's skeins, like lanes, not skeins, and I will try to remember that moving forward. So I bought these 2 skeins. These are mini ones, not mini as in like mini, but like they're pretty tiny. 50-gram balls for 210 meters of Lanyard's Jawoll Superwash, and it's this really beautiful like blue and cream color, and each strand, if you can see, each strand has like the blue and white intertwined, which I think is so fun. But yeah, I picked up these 2 with the idea in mind of making some sort of socks with them, because I thought that they're like neutral enough but fun enough that it would be like a really versatile, whether that be like a gift knit pair of socks or for Ryan or myself, or even if you were to make a hat. I don't know if it would be enough, but maybe a hat too would be nice. I was planning on eventually casting on a knit hat for my dad, and I thought maybe this would be a nice one. I don't know if it will be enough, but even if I do a mustard bro, I could do what I did in mine, where the outside is this, where you can see it, and then the inside is just some scrap yarn that I have if he never plans on reversing it. But yeah, I'll have to think about this. It's really soft. I really like the way this one feels, and these were relatively cheap. They were 40% off at the time. And this last one that I got is the self-striping Rico design Subra Skywave. This is 75% wool, 25% polyamide, and it's this really pretty like pinky tanny sock. This is what the sock is supposed to look like, and I thought it was really nice too. This one was I think like 20% off, so not as affordable as that one, but I also really like this. This one has a more of a rustic feel to it. It's a little bit more probably scratchy. I think it's fine on feet, but definitely like right up my alley in terms of color wise. I'm pretty tame with color, as you probably have noticed. But that is all that I have today. My next couple weeks, I'm hoping that I can start clearing some needles and some quick knits, because I want to start getting ready for the fall and cooler weather, as well as some Christmas gift knitting plans. Am I planning too far in advance? Maybe? But I don't know, I'm just excited. I think summer knitting's been fun, but now that I got the Camisole No. 9 off my needles, I'm definitely like thinking more about wool and like heavier weight yarns. I think it's just been a lot of fingering weight this summer, and I'm just excited for some change, and so I'll probably start casting on some fall knits soon. But before I do that, I want to clear off some things on my needle so I can enter that season with a clean slate. Let me know what you guys are working on right now. I'd love to chat with you guys there. And if you are thinking about some fall/Christmas gift knitting, let me know that I'm not the only one. And I hope you guys enjoyed today's video. Thank you so much for watching. I'll catch you guys in the next one. Bye for now.